So here's a discussion as to why trend lines are important when you're analyzing lab data. These trend lines pictured before you here show you three types of relationships. The first one shows you a negative relationship in which the little dots represent data points. So here they've calculated the amount of auto mileage versus the value of the auto. So the more miles you have on a car, the less it's worth because the more likely things are to go wrong with it. And so what they've found is that the lower the mileage, the more the value you have. And so by looking at these individual data points, they formed a trend line which shows you the overall trend in the data. And you can see this is more powerful than if they had simply connected the dots. If they just connected the dots, you would see a series of up and downs, peaks and valleys, but the overall trend by averaging the data shows that there is a negative correlation between the mileage on a car and its value. The middle graph shows a zero relationship. If you were to connect these, there would be such a disparity in the data points that you are really unable to form a trend line. And so here they're saying the quality of the car relative to the color of the car. So as you know, there are high quality cars that are black and red and white and silver, and there are low quality cars that are black and white and red and silver. So they're showing that there's zero relationship here between the color of the car and the quality of the car. The final graph does a good job of showing a positive relationship. This one shows that the more accidents you have, the higher your cost of insurance goes. And so again, if you were to look at the individual data points, you'd see a lot of up and down, but the overall trend in the data is graphed here with the green line, showing that the data has an overall positive trend. Let me show you an example of this with lab data you might collect in this class. Here we're looking at data collected from an experiment where the experimenter changed the temperature. They increased the temperature, and they wanted to see what that would do to the production of glucose that's made by an enzyme called lactase. So what they discovered is that if you were to do a connect the dot line to every single data point, the blue line here represents that, and you'll see some ups and downs in that, whereas the black line is the trend line showing the overall trend in the data. So if you were just to present this data with the blue line, you would have a hard time extrapolating to the overall trend. You could say, oh, it's increasing, but it shows ups and downs. The black line, which is the trend line, is an average of the distance between the data points, and it shows you the overall trend in the data. So I can give you an Excel tutorial that shows you how to do all of this. I will put that in here, how to do statistical analysis using Excel. But for now, the purpose is just to understand why a trend line is so powerful. So looking back at our notes, you'll see there's just a few points about why this is important. The big one is that it allows you to take the discussion of your data to the overall trend rather than individual events. And as you see in the last line here, individual events are more subject to random variation than well-substantiated trends. So that's the power of a trend line.